Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about AlphaDestiny. I haven't looked at any of his videos in a while. Someone gave a comment and they're saying, Jason, he admitted he can't do your deadlift challenge. I think he's hurt his back. He's quit deadlifting. I actually went to go look because I haven't been keeping up with what he's doing, so I went to see if this was actually true. I couldn't find a video where he actually said that. So, did he admit that? Not that I'm aware of. I'll give the benefit of the doubt there. Let's just be honest. We'll give the benefit of the doubt. I don't see the evidence that he said any such thing. However, I did find his video where he said he's going to quit deadlifting. He said that deadlifts make him want to kill himself. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, that if a specific exercise causes anyone out there so much depression that you actually want to commit suicide when you do it, I'm going to recommend you not do that exercise. In fact, I'm going to recommend that anybody out there, if there's anything in your life that you do that makes you feel the urge to kill yourself, you should probably avoid that thing. Because killing yourself is not good for your health or fitness. I'm going to say it's very unhealthy to do anything that makes you want to actually kill yourself. So I'm going to say in this case, I'm going to agree with Strap-On Destiny when I say if the deadlift actually makes you want to commit suicide, I might not like you very much because of some other stuff recently you've done, but I certainly don't want you to kill yourself, bro. So if that's going to push you over the edge, then, you know, don't deadlift. In the meantime, maybe get some psychiatric help to deal with this issue. Because if an exercise makes you feel that way, that's pretty serious, and I'm glad that you're choosing not to do something that literally makes you want to commit suicide, because that's not good. Now, that being said, one of the things he went and tried to do a 600-pound deadlift and failed it, and I'll get into that in a minute. Now, one of the things that I do have to say, the guy blamed part of his problem with the bar rolling and not being able to grip it, even with straps, on a bent bar. Now, I'm the first one to say, because you guys have seen me deadlift with a bent bar a couple times, you lose a rep. Yeah, the bent bars can mess you up, but how do people bend bars? They bend bars by people doing rack pulls. They bend bars by people trying to shrug twice as much weight as they can actually shrug and putting 700-800 pounds on a bar rated to hold 600. Right? That's how you get bent bars in the gym. Now, the ironic thing is that this is the gym he trains at. He does these stupid, ridiculous rack pulls at the gym with these bars, and he has a bent bar now. He probably bent the bar that caused him to mess up. This is his own doing. This is self-inflicted, and if not, then other people doing exactly what he does caused the bar to be bent to cause him these problems. I mean, him complaining about the bar rolling and missing a lift partially because of a bent bar when his training style bends bars and ruins bars is kind of like a crack dealer bitching and complaining because there's too many crackheads on his street and in his neighborhood. You kind of see the irony there. Hopefully you guys understand that that's self-inflicted. But that is a possible issue. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. He goes, well, I'm more built to sumo pull. No, you train lockouts, so you should be better at the sumo pull. Why? Because sumo pulls are slightly easier off the floor compared to a conventional deadlift, and they're a little harder at the lockout than the conventional deadlift, right? And the shorter range of motion, but it's easier at the bottom for a lot of people, not guaranteed. So he goes to do the sumo deadlift. He goes, well, I should be better at it. He's right. He should be better at the sumo because he does all this lockout work. He couldn't lock it. All right, let's not even get into the grip yet. He couldn't lock 600 pounds when he had to pull it from the floor and get the weight started from the floor, get enough speed started from the floor, and actually use strength to get the bar moving. He didn't have the strength left to lock it. He got up to where the rack pull height is, which he's done 1,000 pounds with, and he had to hitch. He couldn't lock 600 pounds. He didn't get a 600 pound and miss the grip at the top. That's a failed lift. Now, he admitted that, you know, obviously this would get red lighted in a powerlifting meet. Straps wouldn't even be allowed. That's true. But the fact is he didn't lock it. He couldn't lock 600 pounds even on a sumo deadlift, let alone a conventional. So here's the question I have. Has all this lockout training been working? This is what I've been trying to say all of this time. I've told people this for years now. Lockout training will not fix your lockout. All right, doing the reps the way that people do, doing heavy partials will not make you better at lockouts. Most people fail lockouts because they're not strong enough at the bottom. They use up too much of their strength and they're inefficient at the bottom of the exercise, and therefore they can't get enough power behind it and have enough power left to lock the weight. If you want to get better at lockouts, do more pause work. You want to get better at locking your deadlift? Do some deficit deadlifts. Do a lot of deficit deadlifts from a dead stop. Take out your touch and go get more powerful from the floor so that you get better leverages and more pop off the floor, and you will be able to drive harder at the top. Same thing on your bench press. Your lockout sucks on your bench press. Do a lot more pause benching. You'll get stronger. Your perceived lockout weakness isn't what you think it is. Here we have a guy who does nothing but lockout work. 700-pound high bar trap deadlifts. 1,000-pound plus rack lockouts. He went to grab Sumo and he couldn't lock it at the top. Furthermore, doesn't train his grip. Uses straps for almost everything. No grip strength. What happens? The bar rolls even slightly on him and he can't even hold on to the bar at the top with straps. It all comes loose. You guys see the problem here? You guys see the problem with this yoke training, as he's calling it? He didn't get the 600-pound. And, you know, and I'm not going to diss the fact that someone can't deadlift 3+ times their body weight. You know what? That's not unusual. The problem is that he couldn't perform. Meaning he's done all this other training that supposedly makes him big, supposedly makes him strong, supposedly even gives him lockout strength. He couldn't do it. Even with straps on, he couldn't lock 600 pounds. When he had to pull it all the way from the floor for a full range of motion, he couldn't do it. He doesn't have the strength through his body. He doesn't have the joint angle specificity to be strong through a whole lift because of the way he's training. He has muscle imbalances and weaknesses because he hasn't trained these exercises consistently for full ranges of motion. He has smaller support muscles and muscle imbalances that do not allow all the muscles to be developed enough to do it. That's the point I've been making all this time, guys. Full range of motion exercises build more muscle. They remove more weak links in your hypertrophy also. That's the point. He couldn't do it. And the thing is, that's fine. You know, he says, I hate conventional training. I don't want to compete in powerlifting. You know what? That's perfectly acceptable. Not everyone wants to compete in powerlifting, but people need to understand if you're going to compare different people, and that's kind of the point. He was being compared to me. He was being compared to different people out there when he's doing different variations of the exercise. And here's the problem. Exercises are done in a competitive environment not because those specific exercises are the best judge of strength. You know what? The bench press isn't the best judge of strength in the world. It's probably not even the best judge of upper body strength. The squat may not be the best judge of strength in the world. Do you know why we kind of select these? Because they're big exercises that use a lot of muscles in which we can standardize and create the same sort of technique and the same exercise to be compared from person to person so we can judge the relative strength of one person versus another. All right? Meaning if everyone has the bench press and pause with it on their chest and they have to leave their ass on the bench and press it up, yeah, some people are going to have better leverages due to longer arms. All right, some people are going to be more flexible and arch more than others, and that is a point of contention, but the point is you can now have an apples-to-apples comparison, meaning one person's not doing a totally different exercise. We're not comparing a floor press to a bench press where you bounce it off your chest and using that as a comparison. Everyone's having to perform the same lift. When you have different people performing the same lift that they've all trained, you get a better understanding of who's the strongest out of the group so that you can actually compare people in a competitive environment. There's nothing special about the power lifts per se other than maybe the deadlift. Out of those three, the deadlift is probably the one that is the best overall judge of strength if you had to pick between the three. But the point is that you can compare people on an apples-to-apples comparison to actually judge who is probably stronger or not, or at least overall stronger, by having a couple different lifts that they all compete with each other using. And when everyone has to follow the same rules, such as you have to pause, ass can't leave the bench, you have to lock the exercise out, you can't hitch, you can't have up and down on the bar, you can't grind certain ways. Everyone has to perform the same basic technique. There's variations, but it's close enough that we have a standard in place. And that's it. That's all it is. That's the only purpose of having standardized lifts. It's not because the standardized lifts are special. It's that we can actually compare people. And that's the point I've been making. He uses a lot of fancy lifts that are ego lifting to display strength that's higher than what he could actually demonstrate when he has to be compared to other people who weightlift, who use more standardized lifts that are comparable on an apples to apples. That's the point I was making, and we saw it there. He couldn't actually lift the weight that he thought he was going to be able to lift. He's been saying, I'm sure my deadlift is over 600. It's not, even with straps. Even with straps, not even doing conventional, he couldn't pull sumo. He couldn't lock it. He couldn't lock it. Again, there's some muscle weaknesses in place there. Now, as far as all of that goes, here's the thing. The thing that bothered me the most is that he's like, well, I'm going to continue to do what I'm passionate about. And if that's all it was, that would be fine. You know what? If you're passionate about one thing more than another and you're doing something that brings joy to your life, by all means, do what you're passionate about. We should all be so lucky. Everyone should be lucky enough. It would be amazing if everyone is lucky enough to be able to make a living doing what you're passionate about and what you love. So that aspect of it, I'm not going to knock. You know, I'm not going to knock that part. What I am going to knock is that he keeps saying his yoke training is what he's passionate about. And he's been ego lifting before, but now he's going to quit ego lifting because the deadlift is ego lifting. Wait a minute, doing a standardized full range of motion exercise is ego lifting, but doing heavy partials and reverse band training and slingshot training just so you can use a heavier weight that you can't actually move on your own through a normal range of motion, that's ego lifting. The just getting good at a deadlift isn't ego lifting. That's just doing a normal regular exercise that athletes around the world do. That's actually considered a reasonable judge of your overall strength because it uses almost every muscle in the body and you've got to move a weight through a pretty long range of motion. That's not ego lifting. It's a very standardized exercise. The other stuff is ego lifting, and the thing is, he's scared of getting hurt. He's going to quit all this because he doesn't want to get hurt. But the guy's doing rack lockouts with over 1,000 pounds loaded onto his spine. All right, the amount of spinal compression and axial loading you get doing 1,000+ pound rack lockouts when you are a sub 600 pound deadlifter, as demonstrated. All right, in other words, he's deadlifting half of what he does on rack lockouts. So double the axial loading, over double the axial loading on his spine than he would get from his max deadlift. To the point where you've got to use straps to hold on to it because that's not putting extra stress on your shoulder joints and pulling everything down. That's not stressful. That's not going to hurt you. Come on. At the end of the day, I think here's the thing. You know, it comes back to he's got something gimmicky that he wants to market. And he wants to pretend like what he's doing isn't going to hurt him in the long term. It is going to hurt him in the long term. It's showboat lifts using weights that he can't use through the full range of motion, and eventually something is going to give. All right, eventually something is going to snap when he does these rack lockouts. He's doing excessive amounts of accommodating resistance with no strength at the bottom. What's going to happen when one of his bands gets cut? What's going to happen when one of his bands breaks? What's going to happen when something goes wrong with his slingshot? And he doesn't have the strength to lift 400+ pounds at the bottom. He's going to rip a pec. He's going to rip a shoulder, he's going to rip a pec, or he's going to herniate a disc in his back. All right, that's exactly what's going to happen. That is the future of AlphaDestiny. And like I said before, you guys have a right to hate me for saying it, because you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. If you guys want to hate me, you want to hate this video, you want to click dislike, we all live in free countries. You have a right to do that. But at the end of the day, when he does get hurt, because he is going right back to the stuff that's going to hurt him, when he does eventually get hurt, I told you so. And all of you guys who are following his training, when you get hurt, I told you so. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.